What's up, gang? This channel is all about personal development. If you missed my previous video, 5 mistakes that I absolutely still make, I'll put it right up here below so you can look at that first if you'd like. My intention was, hey, we're all human. These are absolutely things I still do. But listen, the channel's about personal development. We wouldn't be, under the umbrella of personal development if I didn't also make a video about 5 mistakes that I no longer make. So let's get right into it. So mistake number 1 that I no longer make, I am proud to say I have totally overcome, is that I no longer snooze. You know, that snooze button, for some of us, it is really difficult. It is like our Achilles heel. We intend to get up at a certain time. All of a sudden that alarm goes off. It seems like the worst idea ever that we wanted to get up early and do X, Y, Z, and it's just no problem to sleep in. But from somebody who used to sleep in until like noon whenever they possibly could, which was not every day, but in the hospitality industry was definitely some days, to somebody who, wakes up usually at like 4 or 5 in the morning, no problem on the first alarm. That took a lot of overcoming. One thing that was really integral to overcoming that was not allowing it to be an option at all the night before. So I think part of the reason why we have a tough time with snoozing is because we do give ourselves that option. I mean, we set our first alarm earlier than it actually needs to be. And then we're like, okay, so I'll set it at that time. And so that way, if I have to snooze 2 or 3 times, or I want to snooze 2 or 3 times, I'll really still be okay and I'll still have enough time to actually get up and leave the house. I was telling myself that. If you're telling yourself that at night, there's no shot that you're gonna get up on the first alarm. So the first thing that I actually did was I set my alarm. I actually gave myself less time in the morning so that I could practice alarm goes up and I'm up. I would set it at the last possible second to give myself time to get ready so that I could put that into practice. And then as I pushed it back, that habit had already been developed. Over time, it became easier and easier to get up on those earlier times so that I could have extra time and not feel rushed because the habit of snoozing in the first place was already broken. But broke that one, did it. The second mistake that I am proud to say, I would really say that I no longer do, is I guess I would say under communicate. I'm somebody who doesn't need to know a ton of stuff ahead of time. If I'm traveling somewhere, I have no problem booking the rental car as I'm exiting the flight, already landed at that city. I don't really need to know what's going on ahead of time. I don't need all the details. In my personal life, within my marriage, I'm not somebody that needs a ton of communication. If my husband's out of town, if we're just kind of both doing our thing over the course of a long day separately, I don't need check-ins. I'm okay. I'm a pretty prepared person as a whole, but I'm also pretty good and stress-free, just going with the flow. And what I have realized as an employer, as somebody who obviously likes to maintain personal relationships in their adult life, is that not everybody works that way. And so one mistake that I used to make all the time was assuming that other people were like that, like me. And also when they weren't, kind of being confused. Like, hey, we'll figure it out when we get there. But you can't project those things on other people, right? So I am so much more prepared and organized and communicative with people that I work with ahead of time, any personal relationships, my husband. understanding that not everybody works that way. And so if we're gonna kind of like, whether you can relate to over communicating, under communicating, if we're gonna kind of like make that a bigger thing, it's kind of like not projecting the way you are or the way you work on other people. I think I do a good job these days of not doing that anymore. The third mistake that I don't do anymore is put anything on a credit card. Now, I potentially overcompensated here because there are times where that might be a good thing if you're paying it off every month and obviously building credit, of course. Again, if you're paying it off every month, but you put things on your credit card so that you can get points or rewards because you're diligently actually managing money and the perks of having that card in the first place, sure. But what I used to do is I used to put something on a credit card with the intention of some of those things. And then, when the bill would come, and even if it was just, $200, right? Small bill, it's kind of like, well, if I don't pay that, listen, I can just pay $45 and I'll have more money this month. Terrible. So maybe I've overcompensated, but the number 3, the mistake that I no longer make is nothing is on a credit card. Never is that an option. At no point do I buy anything that I cannot afford right then and there in cash. And that has been a huge money management lesson or mantra to live by for myself. Fourth mistake that I would like to say that I no longer make is talking when I should be listening. A lot of us, when we start out as coaching or mentoring someone else especially, we just like to talk and like educate because we feel so strongly about whatever we're saying. We know we have the answer for this person. We want to help them. All the intentions are really good, but it's such an ineffective conversation, just talking and just educating. And so much more can be gained from just listening. I realized as I was working on that professionally, how much I did that in my personal life. You're spending time with somebody, you meet somebody. A lot of us will spend a lot more time talking than we do listening. And I've caught myself so much as I was working on that. And again, in my personal life, kind of like, what am I doing? And I've really put pressure on that skill set to be like, I need to listen to what's going on. I want to listen to this person so they know that I care about them. I want to listen to this person so I can hear what they actually have to say. I want to listen to this person so I can formulate thoughts and actually respond. Listening is such a huge skill set that a lot of times we don't really put a lot of pressure on actually developing, and we do default to talking. And the fifth mistake that I really don't think I make anymore is I used to say, I feel so much when I was trying to get a point across that I was really certain on. So if I was trying to stand my ground on something, even in a personal relationship, it was always about feel. And even as a coach, if I was trying to, really help somebody, but with something that I knew to be true, I would always default to kind of like this wishy-washy communication. Well, I feel like XYZ. And it immediately softens the message. It immediately puts room for gray area. If you believe something to be true, then just say, hey, this is what we need to do. Hey, this is what we need to change. Hey, this is what I'd like. This is what I'm requesting. The I feel like, it takes so much emphasis away from your point. I had to have a coach pull this out and point this out for years. First off, for me to realize how much I was doing that and downgrading what I was about to say. And secondly, in order to work on it, because it was such a default. So that thankfully, I've worked that out. So if I'm sitting in a meeting, it's not, well, I feel like we should do this. It's, listen, this is what we need to do. And it's commanding so much more respect in your communication. And I think also sometimes as women, we can do that a lot too. You know, we just naturally kind of have a softer approach, or we think we need to justify what we're saying. And it's, hey, if you're believing in something and you know that this is the right answer, or you know you want to communicate X, Y, Z, say it, communicate in more absolutes. It changes the way it's received. 5 mistakes I have super worked on, don't do anymore. And so to sum this up with the previous video, it's okay to have things that you're still working on. It's okay to be a human being, as I mentioned in the previous video. But also, hopefully you are working on things as you go along, and there are things that you've developed into more of strengths or crossed off some weaknesses here and there as you're just personal and professionally developing yourself. That's it, guys. Have an amazing day. We'll see you on the next video.